Double Fries No State gets to 2-0, matches their win total from, let's stop mentioning 2024, but matches their win total 8 days into their season. Here we are on, September 7th, and we have a restful week, Richie. How you doing, man?
Good. It was a perfect weekend for me. The Bucks gave me quite the scare today. The Falcons just would not go away, but the
neither
Bucks
were the refs.
Yeah. Well, and honestly, I thought the refs got most of the calls, the reviews specifically, right. But yeah, it feels good when both of your college team and your pro team win in one weekend. We hosted my best friend Weston and his whole family here, so we had kids running around the house. So I don't know how you do it, TJ. I really don't, but it was a good weekend.
Yeah, it's a crap show all the time. That's how I do it. I cage them up and come out here and talk with you guys. I know nobody tuned in to hear us talk about the Bucks, but if I see one more replay review go against Tampa Bay, which I'm not on the same level as Richie, where I'm like diehard week one, like my appetite for the NFL really doesn't kick in until about halfway through. We get close to the playoff race and all that stuff. But I did watch all day today, I watched the entire game. And if I see one more replay go against us, and then this whole thing where Atlanta Atlanta didn't do it because it was within the last 2 minutes, but they got a challenge after the play had already been spiked. And
on Penix, yeah.
Oh my goodness, what are we doing here, man?
I don't know.
You can't challenge a play after the spike has already happened. Again, we'll get to FSU in a minute, but my gosh.
Yeah, that was ridiculous. I'm not an NFL rules expert, but I don't know how you allow that to happen. To after the spike say, actually, no, it was a first down.
I've never seen anything like that.
Yeah. And I'll just say this one last thing on the Bucks, and then we'll get into Florida State. I promise. I took the Bucks live at -3.5, and that doink on the PAT cost me not a sizable amount of money, but decent money. I'll say that because they won by 3 instead of 4.
It's not a Bucks game if there's not stress at the end. But if he just made that PAT, I would have had no stress.
Exactly.
But hey, it worked out. God still loves us, so it worked out, and the better team won. Cheaters never prosper. Double Fries No Slaw brought to you by Guthrie's in Tallahassee, 1818 West Tennessee, 2550 North Monroe, and 2870 Appalachia Parkway. We appreciate Guthrie's, as always, for their support. Make sure that if you are in Tallahassee or anywhere with the Guthrie's, you stop by and get your gut box, Double Fries No Slaw. Richie, I made a last-minute decision. I gave my tickets away. I gave my 2 away, and had no plans to go to the game. So long story short, my wife was taking my daughter to a birthday party that was a little over an hour away, and it was kind of a long party, and they were getting breakfast with another friend, so it's kind of an all-day girls' day planned, and they truly just weren't going to be home all day. They were leaving at 8 a.m. for breakfast, 8:30 in the morning for breakfast, and I was just like, dude, I'm going to take the boys up to the game. It should be a pretty stress-free game, other than having to watch a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old. I'm just going to take the boys. Who cares? I got nothing else to do. I'm either going to sit around the house all day watching football, letting them distract me from football, or I'll take them up there and they can play. So we went up last second and had a really good weekend, just a good day. We drove up and drove right back, but had a great day, had a lot of fun. Obviously, Florida State gets the win, but it was cool to be there. Big roar for all the starters, but for Tommy Castellanos and Mike Norvell, which was great, right? Because listen, I'll own up to it. When we took Tommy in the portal, I wasn't a big fan. I all the BC stuff had happened. All the rumors about why he was gone or why he left there or quitting on his team. I was worried. I didn't think it was going to work. I was not a big believer in the Gus Malzahn thing, right? And I know we're just 2 games in, but it was cool. So I'll own up to that, right? That's fine. I'm not going to be right about everything. I also wasn't right about hyping the hell out of the team last year. So here we go, right? Wrong 2 years in a row. But to hear the crowd go crazy for Tommy and then hear them go crazy for Mike too, when just a couple of weeks ago, man, people were not sure how long he would be around here, was a really cool moment to start the game. We'll talk about the game here in a minute too. I don't know how much of a breakdown you guys need for a 77-3 win, which was phenomenal. But that was really cool to me, and something that you may not catch if you're not there at the game. The fan base is fully behind Tommy and Mike.
Yeah, as they should be, and I think I was a little higher on the Gus Malzahn hire than you were.
Mhm.
And, Tommy, I think we were both a little bit like, I don't know about this. It could work out or it could be a complete disaster. He ends up going 8 for 11 for 237 yards. Shout out Deuce Robinson for
Oh my gosh.
helping him out with all of that. I tweeted out the photo. Everyone's seen it if you're listening to this, of Randy Moss when he had like 3 catches for 163 yards,
Yeah.
and 3 touchdowns. But that's what it felt like. So yeah, I thought Tommy he plays with such confidence and swagger. Like I think there is something to be said about a player, especially at the quarterback position, where if you believe in yourself so much, you can overcome some of your deficiencies. And
Yeah.
I think that's what Tommy is. That's just what I've seen through 2 weeks. Again, it was East Texas A&M. My wife kept giving me a hard time because I'm like, "Oh, we're beating Texas A&M's ass." She's like, "It's East." But it was a fun game to watch. She's like, "Can we turn it off?" I'm like, "No, I need to see if we get the spiked baseball or not." And
Oh,
unfortunately, they were cowards and took the 3
that is a
points.
coward move. That is
Yes.
a coward move. I
Yes.
mean, okay, so I do understand it from their perspective. Like being able to say that you scored in Doak Campbell Stadium is cool. But when you're down 70-0, man, like, is it really that cool? It reminds me of Miami in the ACC championship lining up for that field goal.
Down 38-0.
Yeah, man. Like, what are we doing here? But I get it, man. Some of those kids are never going to play in a stadium like this. I go get some kind of points, and piss off the other crowd, So I get it. But
I just imagine Chip Baker like watching the game and
see
slamming the
tweeted?
desk.
Yeah.
Like, what the hell, man?
So Chip Baker was the director. Oh, I was at the game last weekend. I told a friend. Chip walked by, and I said, "Hey, that was the director of operations for baseball or the most recent one a couple of years ago." And Chip even tweeted. He tweeted the gif of the guy taking the phone and like throwing it up against the wall. He had to be
amazing.
bad. For again, those that don't know, whenever Florida State shuts the other team out, Chip's tradition has always been to give the head coach a spiked baseball. So little FSU history. Hopefully we'll see one in 2 weeks. But yeah, I mean, it was really fun. It was cool. I mean, even with the shutout, and not to take a shot at Lindsay. Hopefully she's not watching, but I was a big fan of Florida State, not only scoring more than Alabama scored against their cupcake, but also having a wider margin of victory than Alabama did as well. So big fan of that.
Yes, by 1 point, even though they did get the shutout, which that was impressive against ULM. Like that's not a slouch of a team.
Yeah.
And I think that just looks better for Florida State.
For sure. They're like, FPI, which is a terrible metric that, if you're looking at like the top 25 because it's so biased towards the SEC, but a pretty reliable metric once you get down like 50 and below. It's a pretty good metric like for figuring out like how good teams really are past that. And so they're ranked about, even with a 77-point loss, they're ranked around 100, right? So they're not like a great team, but they're not Kent State, right? They're not like 136. So, yeah, man, I hope Alabama wins every game on the rest of their schedule, man. Like, I hope we're 1-2 at the end of the year. So yeah, bring it on. I'll tell you, Richie, going back to the game, the most impressive thing to me about this game, because Florida State scored on every drive minus the one fumble when there were walk-ons in. So I don't even really care about that. But the most impressive thing to me was the way that the effort. That's all I really cared about in this game, outside of getting out healthy. I'd have taken a 1-point game if you get out healthy, right? But the effort was so good to me. There were at least 2 times, and remind you, I was watching I haven't rewatched the game, and I probably never will, but I was watching a couple of toddlers try to not tear down Doak Campbell Stadium. But there were at least 2 times that I can remember them getting 8 and 9 yards on first down and not converting on that series. And that is, to me, like, for the defense to care that much, and Florida State was up by a lot, up by like 28 or 35 or, somewhere in that range. For the defense to still give a like in that situation, after they got 9 yards on first down and it's 2nd and 1, nobody would have lost their mind had Florida State just gotten that last yard and got the first down. Like, nobody would have cared. Like, all right, whatever. You'll get them on the next. You'll get them. They'll literally punt in 3 downs. No big deal. But for the defense to bow up, and on both of those situations, on the second down play, I wish I had I'm not even pulling up the game log for this, but if I had the game log pulled up, I'm pretty sure on both those second down plays, 2nd and 1 and 2nd and 2, they got a tackle for loss on both of those. And to me, yeah, you were just better than this team. Deuce Robinson's not a speedster, and he was just running by guys. Squirrel White's obviously running by guys. Cromwell's running by guys. I mean, you knew that was going to happen. But for them to just be like, "No, you ain't getting first downs on us. You're not moving this ball. Yeah, you got lucky on that 9 yards on the first down, but you ain't getting another yard on this drive." That to me was so impressive because there's such a tendency when you're playing a bad team. We saw Florida do it, which I think USF is a good team. I don't want to shade them. We saw Clemson do it against Troy. It happens all over. LSU barely beat whatever directional school they played, or didn't beat them, as handily as maybe they would have wanted to. I think they won by 20. But for the defense to care as much as they did, that speaks everything to me. And we're going to talk about some of that bigger picture stuff here in a minute. But man, I was so impressed by the way the defense looked. Again, terrible opponent. I know you just won a game by 74. Obviously, the other team sucks. But to not just be like, whatever, we're up by 30. Who cares? Effort doesn't have to be there. No, the effort was there from the entire team. And that was really, really impressive. I mean, even the walk-ons were pushing them around once we got to it. But I did like seeing that. Richie, you got muted somehow.
That's something we touched on Wednesday. By the way, we talked about how it's easy to get up for Alabama, right? It's super easy to do that. But can you get up for East Texas A&M? We were talking about what if they win like 35-7? Like, yeah, you would take it, but we both took much bigger spreads. I think I took 56-3. You took something to 0. You had the shutout. Yeah. It almost missed it. But yeah, to get up for a noon game against East Texas A&M, who I think is actually west of the actual College Station campus.
That's hilarious.
But that's neither here nor there. But yeah, they came out to play. And there were a lot of – I would love to see the participation chart because I would guess 80 to 90 players played in that game. And, for Tommy to be out of the game before the half, I thought that was amazing. And I thought it was interesting that Sperry got in the game before Brock Glenn. I think that shows you where Gus Malzahn and Mike Norvell's head is at. But yeah, it's one thing to get up for a huge SEC opponent, but when you can do it for a team like East Texas A&M, and we almost got there. I mentioned on Wednesday's show, I remembered that 2013 Idaho game where Florida State won 80-14. So the margin of victory was bigger, but they didn't quite get to that 80 mark, and they could have if they wanted to. Being honest.
To start the fourth quarter, I think it was 70-0 at the end of the third, right? Did we only score 7 in the fourth quarter? Like if Mike wanted to, we could have hit 100. I don't know that you need to, right? Like I don't know that that's something that looks very good.
We don't need a Georgia Tech or who did they beat 212-0? I forget. Columbia or something Cumberland.
Like
that. That's it.
But yeah, man, I was very impressed with the effort. That's all I wanted to see. All I wanted to see was the effort and, getting out relatively healthy. Tommy, 8 completions for 237 yards is so stupid. That is
on 11 attempts.
Yeah, that's an unreal stat line. Couple of fun stats for you that a couple of people have pointed out to me. Tommy is 7th in the country in QBR right now. QBR, again, not an end-all be-all stat, but 7th in the country. Did you see the Boston College Barstool tweet, from Christmas Day when they were like, enjoy this prank of a Christmas present? That Christmas present's looking okay through 2
pretty
weeks.
Good right now.
Yeah, not complaining. How about this one? This is insane. Sinone just tweeted this. I don't know if you saw this tweet from Sinone or not, but FSU leads the country 1 out of 136 in plays of 40 yards or more. They have 8 of them.
Damn.
Last season, they were 131st. Do you know how many they finished with? If you saw the tweet, don't cheat. No, they finished with 5 last year.
Okay.
8 through 2 games. That is now. I get it. I understand who they just played last year, but they played Charleston Southern last year, right? Like one of the worst FCS teams. They played bad teams last year too, and they had some of those big plays. Obviously, the Squirrel White catch was one of them. But yeah. 8 40-yard plus plays. The explosive ability of this offense is pretty impressive. And again, last year you finished the year with 5. So
can we talk about Deuce Robinson's one-handed touchdown catch,
While he's
because
getting interfered with,
that was insane. It gave you shades. It will never, no catch will ever come close to what Peter Warwick did in the Sugar Bowl against Virginia Tech. But the pass interference, he's turning, catches it one hand, and then he steps up and he's like, "Are you not entertained?" Like,
yeah,
it was amazing.
Yeah, he's a baller, and I think you needed to get some of that timing stuff down. Man, they hit the wheel route again. We need to chill out on the wheel route until we play like UVA. But yeah, man, it was great to see Chroma get his first touchdown.
Yeah.
Amari had a touchdown and a sack. It was so cool to see everybody get involved. And again, it's what you expected. I honestly don't have much else for this game. We can talk some other stuff here, but it's what you expected. It's what you needed to see. And it answered, I don't want to say it answered a bunch of questions for me because, again, how much do you take away? But we wanted to see effort and we wanted to see energy and we wanted to see them bury a bad team the way you're supposed to. And they went out and did that, right? Now, maybe last year's team still wins this game, 45-17 or something. But, you talk about that. This team just played SMU last week and they lost 42-13. So they still got blown out. Don't get me wrong. They still were never really competitive. SMU went up 21-3 in the half. And then East Texas A&M scored a little bit, scored a few times late. But SMU didn't have this same kind of, SMU turned the ball over 3 times. I know we had our walk-ons turned it over once. But, 42-13 is a lot. I wouldn't feel very good if it was 42-13, to tell you the truth, if that was the final score. And so, listen, transitive property is not necessarily, this, that, the other. But, man, you look at another ACC team, played them last week, and an ACC team that went to the ACC championship and went to the playoff and has their quarterback back and is a top 5 or 6 team in the ACC this year. You beat them by 40 points more than the other team did. Transitive property is not the end all be all for sure. And you can't do that in college football. I do think that speaks a little bit to the level of effort and execution that Florida State had.
Yeah, no, it was just a dominant performance. 10 drives, 10 touchdowns to start the game. Like it was like watching old Florida State football again. Terrible opponent. We're not sitting here bragging about, beating East Texas A&M, but the way they did it, it's tough to score 10 touchdowns on air in practice. And for them to do it in 10 straight drives, it was extremely impressive. They did what they were supposed to do. And it wasn't just the starters. It was the backups and, some other players that probably won't even see the field the rest of the year. But it was a fun game to watch. And I just enjoyed it sitting on the couch watching. I'm like, okay, this is what we're supposed to look like.
If I would have told you that Michael Grant was going to get in and complete a pass, first of all, would you have known who Michael Grant was? Second of all, would you have believed me?
Never heard of him.
When you have, and there were a lot, it wasn't just him. When you have the walk-ons getting in
for 14 yards too, damn.
Yeah, when you have the walk-ons getting in and still moving the ball. What's funny? Tommy had more incompletions than the rest of the quarterbacks that came in combined. Brock went 3 for 3, Kevin went 4 for 5, and Grant went 1 for 1. I will say this. You mentioned Sperry and Brock. Brock has been pretty banged up, so I wasn't super shocked. Like if God forbid, right? Knock on wood. If Tommy was to go down for like a series or something, I don't know if Brock or Sperry would come in yet. Like against UVA, right? Against Kent State, it doesn't matter. But I'm not super confident in one or the other. But I thought Kevin looked pretty good. He obviously got the wheel route, and then he got another one there in the second half that I thought was great too. So, all right, that's all I've really got on that. Let's give Sleeper some love real quick, and then we'll go on to the next one. Listen, I was on the Sleeper app earlier. I know a lot of people are doing their fantasy football leagues through there. They've also got like eliminator leagues. They've got pick'em leagues. They've got a bunch of different stuff. A great interface that you can really get in there. Survivor leagues, yeah, that's what I'm showing right now on the phone. But they've got a great interface too, like where you can go and check all the scores. I know people get pissed off at the 4-letter networks app and the updates that happen there. Just the way their app works and moves is really, really good. You can also play the more or less game that Richie and I play every single Wednesday night when we go live to preview our opponents. You can use our code right now, DFNS, to get 100% match up to $100 on the Sleeper app. Of course, check their terms of use, check their terms and conditions before you do anything crazy. But go check out the Sleeper app. Richie, I think what we'll do, since we have a bye week, we have a little extra time. I think we'll set up like an eliminator league or something. It'll be NFL. It's not through college or whatever, but maybe we'll give away tickets or something like that to somebody who wins an eliminator league. We'll start it in week 2 since, again, like we said, the NFL has started and the Bucs are already 1-0. But we'll pick more games. Well, it won't be this week, but we will pick more games, and we'll pick more or lesses once Florida State is back in action. Appreciate Sleeper for their support. All right. So this was the thing I saw on Saturday taking your kids to the game is the best. But partially through the game, they did show Ethan Pritchard, which we didn't spend a lot of time on this because it happened after we recorded last week. But everyone knows this by now. We're not breaking any news. But Ethan Pritchard was unfortunately shot literally the day after the game, right? Sunday night of last week. That started coming out. And then, Florida State addressed it on Monday. And Mike has been asked about it every single time. They showed him up on the Jumbotron. The entire crowd roars, super loud appreciation for, his dad being there and all that. And then after the game, listen, I think I'm not trying to crap on FSU here because we're all in a good mood. I think the rock break is kind of, I don't know, man. Like it's cool that we do something. I don't get super jazzed up about it. Certainly after big games you do because it's a little more fun there. But I don't really care about breaking the rock after East Texas A&M. Like that doesn't really get me all excited. Listen, I'm driving home yesterday and in some stop and go traffic in Tallahassee. And I see Florida State post that Ethan Pritchard's dad broke the rock. And I'm crying on the way home. I'm like, man, I'm glad my sunglasses are on. People are going to think I'm crazy. I'm crying on the way home watching his dad break that rock. And to me, that's the best one we've ever done. It's not even close. And listen, you can say whatever you want about Mike and recruiting and, last year and his start and this, that, and the other. Man, I have so much respect for him and the way that I do. I think and I'm not saying other coaches don't, but the way he loves this team and the way that he loves his players and the way that they rally around a true freshman that's just been on campus for however many, not even that long, right? I thought that was the most special thing that happened on Saturday. So much bigger than the game, so much bigger than the result, somehow bigger than a 74-point victory that's like record breaking. That was the coolest thing that I've seen maybe in the Mike Norvell tenure was to bring a kid's dad in and have him be part of that. That was so cool, man.
Yeah. And, first and foremost, prayers to Ethan and his recovery. And it sounds like he's stable and he should recover. But you never know. So you just continue those prayers for him. But at the same time, yeah. And if you watched Mike Norvell after the game, he got extremely emotional when he was asked about that. And I love that. And, players watching that see that he truly does care. And, he mentioned that Ethan wanted to be at the game, but since he couldn't, he wanted his dad to go in his place. And he showed up wearing a t-shirt of his son. And after the game, he got to break the rock. It was truly touching. It really was. Like I'm getting old. I get a little more emotional now than I used to. But no, I love that his dad was kind of the star of the night, without playing in the game or anything like that. And I'm sure Ethan was probably watching from his hospital bed and saying, that's awesome. And I'm sure he's already seen the clip of his dad breaking the rock, and to see the way the team reacted of him breaking that rock, that was amazing. It shows the culture. Last year, I think we kind of lost our culture a little bit. 2-10 will do that to you, but I think it's fully back right now. And it was just really special to see. Even Lindsay, a huge Alabama fan, was so happy when I showed her the video of Ethan's dad breaking the rock.
Yeah, nobody texted me about the game this week. A lot of people did last week. But nobody texted me about the game this week. I got a text from, again, a friend that I was with not too long ago. And that was what they said. They were like, hey, did you see this? Right? It wasn't, hey, what about the game? What about this play? What about that play? It was, did you see who did this? And that makes, I saw UF fans on, before their catastrophe, which we'll talk about that at the end. I do want to get to that. But I saw UF fans quote tweeting that and just saying like, dude, this is what it's all about, man. Like we all want to win our games, but dude, I wouldn't have cared if that was a U. If the same thing happened to a UF player, some walk on, some backup, doesn't matter, right? Or a Miami player, their dad getting to be part of something like that, or their
100%.
family member or brother or something. Dude, I don't care, man. We put all that rivalry stuff aside, and so it was like I said, I had people reach out about that. I saw it on social media, even like Gator fans, like. Yeah, man, like this is really awesome. I'm really glad that Florida State does this. I do think it brings up an interesting point, and you just made it. I saw Daryl Jackson in a shirt that had Ethan's picture on it and stuff, and kind of showing support for him. The whole team honored him, and of course they would, right? Like there'd be no situation where they wouldn't. So I'm not trying to make a mountain out of a molehill, but
and the wristbands too.
Yeah, everybody had that. I saw the Battle's End is doing something where they're gonna get shirts available. Where 100% of the proceeds, like the Battle's End, is literally absorbing the costs of, the shipping and handling and labor and all that stuff, and 100% of the money is going to the Pritchard family, which I think is awesome. I love that they're doing that. But man, as bad as you think about Richie, how good we would say the culture was in 2023, and honestly, in 2023, if I would have asked you what Mike Norvell is the absolute best at. The argument would have been, well, it's either the portal, right? Or it's the way that he built the team culture. Because it was so freaking good in 2023, sorry. And then last year, you just said it was the thing he was the worst at, right? Like the team culture last year was absolutely diabolically bad. Because even the portal hits that we talk about, like missing and stuff, they weren't that bad. Like Marvin Jones Jr.'s got some good burst at Oklahoma. Pat Payton's playing a lot at different places. Some of the guys that they recruited out of the portal last year are playing really well. When you look at Earl Little and Malik Benson's had a good start for Oregon, and you look at Richie Leonard is playing well so far for us this year. So like, it's not that the portal was so terrible last year, but I do think that the culture was, and it does seem not just because of the Pritchard thing, but because of the effort and the way that they're playing hard through these first 2 weeks, the way that they're bought in, the swag that Tommy's brought back, the way they honored Ethan, the way that the team has really rallied around so many things that they believe in, it does feel like the culture is back. Now, it's 2 games, right? We're a sixth of the way through the season, which is kind of sad to say when you put it that way. But it does feel like that culture is, if it's not all the way back, man, it certainly is returning.
Yeah, no, it definitely is. And I'm really happy this team in winning a home opener the way you did in dominant fashion against probably the biggest brand in college football the past 20 years. I mean, that'll help you do that. And that, like we talked about again on Wednesday, we were worried about, will this team show up the same way this week that they showed up against Bama, and they did. And I think it truly is a family culture. Whether you love or hate Mike Norvell, I truly believe he does preach a family culture for the football team. I think he's done that since day one, since he's been here. Last year sucked. It is what it is, but doing that, and I think he cares about each and every individual on this roster. And if they do not fit the culture, I don't think he has a problem saying, okay, move on. But he loves all of these players. And, whether it works out with him or not, we don't know. That's years down the road, hopefully. It's not a conversation at the end of this year. But, yeah, no, he truly cares. And his gesture this weekend, bringing Ethan's father here, letting him break the rock, I just love that. That it makes me proud to be a Seminole.
So, off of culture for a minute, we'll continue to move on. I do have, actually, you know what? I'll answer this question. What does the class look like if we win the ACC this year? Earlier today, I interviewed Josh Newberg, and so we talked about some specific players. We talked about a class ceiling. We talked about a whole bunch of stuff. That'll come out tomorrow morning, so make sure that you are subscribed so you don't miss it. If you're not subscribed, listen, I know that like 50% of you aren't. I just put that in the comments too. YouTube tells me the analytics. So the other 50% of you that are watching this, the couple hundred or whatever, go hit the button, please.
Go like and subscribe, please.
Yeah. But all those questions answered in literally the next thing we'll drop. We'll drop that tomorrow morning. and get that out to you. But great question, because yeah, the ceiling has raised a ton, and and it's already paying off in a big way per Josh. So also, it's always good to get Josh back on the FSU stuff and not all national. But garnetgold.com, make sure that you are using them. Listen, I had a friend that was literally just texting me today about some stuff they were looking at Garnet and Gold. And I was like, hey, listen, we've got a discount code that you need to be using. No Slaw, NOSLAW for 15% off. I did start back, or I did start the day off yesterday going by Garnet and Gold, which is an absolute must stop. I had another friend, not to tell you everything that goes on in my life, but somebody asked, what's game day? And I was like, well, you got to stop by Garnet and Gold. So that is a must stop. Listen, I didn't even get anything for myself there. I got something for somebody else, but a great place to go buy gifts, a great place to stop by and support your local business, and the absolute best in FSU gear. garnetandgold.com. Use code NOSLAW, NOSLAW. Listen, I tried to use my own code in store and it did work. So maybe you can actually use it in store now too. A couple years ago, that wasn't the case. Appreciate Garnet and Gold for their support. Richie, if I'd have told you, which I want to talk about UF in a minute, don't get too far ahead of ourselves. I tweeted this. I tweeted a poll. Maybe I should pull up and see what the results are so far, and who has said this, that, or the other. If I would have told you before the season that after 8 days of Florida State's season, Florida State would be ranked in the top 10, or UF would be unranked after having Long Island University and USF on their schedule, no shots at USF, which one of those two would be more crazy to you?
Obviously Florida State, right? Like we
went forth. I'll tell you why, but go ahead.
We went from 2-10 to top 10. How does that happen in 8 days? You dominate Bama, and then you go out and do what you're supposed to do against a really bad team. And I think that plays a big role. If they had won, 35-17, they're probably not in the top 10. But they jumped teams. They jumped Clemson. Like Clemson is now ranked behind Florida State. I think they're number 12. But yeah, they are seeing the fruits of the labor. They put in the work this offseason. And I think it's a situation where, looking at Florida specifically, they just looked outclassed. Like USF looked like the better team the entire game. Obviously, they had to win on the last second field goal, but they just looked like the better team. DJ Lagway has had 2 very bad weeks in a row. If you look at the metrics and the numbers, and before the season, I think we both picked Florida to be a loss. We're beating that. We're beating Florida. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'd be pretty surprised at this point if they don't beat Florida. Now, it's a long season. Maybe USF goes out and beats Miami this week, and Florida goes and beats LSU, and then I change everything that I think about the last 7 days. But as of today, I would be pretty surprised if Florida beat us at this point. But again, crazy things happen in rivalries. We'll see. Florida State being top 10. Here's why it surprises me, because I could have never imagined a scenario where Florida State beat Alabama the way they did. And so, man, I'm almost more surprised by them losing to US. I mean, like I wasn't like as high on Florida as a lot of people, but I thought they had a chance to win like 7 or 8 games. I truly, when I looked at their schedule, I thought their season started week 3, Richie. Like I didn't, yeah. I never saw. Now, could USF be a scrappy team that maybe keeps it around close and then loses by 14 in the end? Yeah, that's kind of, I maybe bought that, but I never saw a scenario where, I mean, I know we lost to them too at home. I think, now South Florida has a win over all 3 of the big 3. But I never saw a scenario where a Florida team that I was kind of high on, right? I picked Florida to beat us at the beginning of the year. I never saw a situation where South Florida could go in there and win that game. And I also never saw a situation where not only did Florida State beat Bama, so I thought that if Florida State could find a way to luck into a win against Bama, they would get ranked. But I thought it would be like, man, Bama was the better team and Florida State just found a way. We'll put them at 23, or we'll put them at 24.
No, Florida State was the better team.
Yeah, I didn't think they'd come out and beat Bama so bad that it catapulted them from like 40 to 14. And like that never entered my mind. Like I never thought. And then with a cupcake the next week, right, where you say like, oh, well, you're not going to move up in the rankings much unless people fall in front of you. You jumped some teams. You jumped over a couple of teams that lost in front of you.
Jumped Clemson,
but you looked so impressive against an inferior opponent, like a terrible opponent. You look so good that they said, yeah, we're going to keep moving them up. Like we're going to like, that's crazy to me. And so, man, I don't know. I think it's a tough poll one way or the other, but, man, so that it's crazy to think that Florida State, 300 and what would it be? 79, 70, well, less than that because we were week one ranked 10 too. It's crazy to think that like 360, no, it would have been to the day. Yeah, because week one would have been done. Like 373 days ago, Richie, Florida State was ranked number 10. And that was the day of a loss to Boston College. So we knew that we wouldn't stay there.
A blowout loss to Boston College. Wait, who was that quarterback again?
Yeah. Tommy C. But you're talking about a year's difference, a year and a week. 53 weeks later, Florida State back to the top 10. If you'd have told us that, right, coming off that Boston College win, or loss, I'm sorry, that Tommy Castellanos win, let's call it that. If you'd have told me that 53 weeks ago, I'd have said you were crazy. And it is insane to me that they're top 10. Here's the challenge now. You're not sneaking up on anybody else for the rest of the year. Like you're good. You're the hunted now. And so I loved what BMAC said. We referenced it last week, not buying into the flowers, not smelling your own perfume or whatever, or not drinking your own perfume because it's poison. It's the same thing Nick Saban always said about the rat poison and things like that. I do think that the biggest thing for Florida State now is to continue to bring the energy that you brought in the first 2 weeks. If they play like they did in the first 2 weeks with the effort, execution is not always going to be there. You're going to make mistakes. Tommy ain't going to go the whole year without throwing a pick. Cromwell's not going to go the whole, well, he might, but guys are going to fumble. Guys are going to miss assignments. We're going to blow coverages. We're going to miss kicks. All that's going to happen. And that's fine, right? Execution is not always going to be perfect, but if they play with the same level of effort, Richie, I think they're going to win 10 games. Now, are you always going to get that level of effort? Do you ever play down? Sure. Like that happens. College football is hard, and other teams make big plays too. But man, if they can keep that up and not read their own press clippings too much, that's kind of where I don't really worry about it with the Mike Norvell culture. We talked about that a little bit. I do think that is a concern that I didn't have 2 weeks ago was will they get too big of a head? Now it's kind of like, all right, now you're top 10. Now you got to live up. Everybody expects you to win. Everybody thinks you're one of the better teams in the country. Can they avoid that?
Yeah, and if you look at just the AP poll as a whole, Florida State would be in the college football playoff today if it were to happen. Yeah. Granted, there are 10 more games. There's a lot going on. And I think the biggest test to me is going to be, can you avoid, especially if Miami wins their next 2 games, can you avoid looking ahead to Miami during that Friday night game in Charlottesville against Virginia? That's probably at this point, after what we just saw through 2 weeks, I think the most important game on the schedule for Florida State, because it is a conference game. It's a weeknight game. It's on the road. I think there's a lot that could potentially go wrong. Florida State's first ever ACC loss was at Virginia when Warwick Dunn got tackled at the 1 yard line. I think he scored, but they didn't have replay review back then. But yeah, I mean, they have so much in front of them right now. How do you channel everything and not get ahead of yourselves? Like focus on Kent State right now, then Virginia, and then Miami comes to town. Doak is going to be absolutely electric if you beat Virginia. And that's a game you should win. But again, it's a road game, conference game. It gets weird sometimes. That to me is the game of the season through September.
Yeah, no, I agree. I don't want to jump so hard. I really want to beat Miami. Like I want that win so bad.
I'm on Carson Beck crying on the sidelines.
But if you beat Virginia, I just want to tell you, I think the Miami game, it's important, right? Like I said, nobody clip this, please. Don't get me in trouble. But if you beat Virginia, I don't know how much it matters. It does matter, right? But like for the ACC and then get into the playoff, you can afford a loss to Miami, I guess is maybe the better way to say that, right? You're not cratering the program. You lose to Virginia, then I think it starts to call into question every other game. Well, you're going to beat Pitt. you going to beat NC State, who beat Virginia? Are you going to beat Virginia Tech? Although Vandy beat the hell out of them. I feel pretty good about that one. But yeah, I mean, I think that now, again, nobody hear me wrong. I want to beat Miami. If you offered me both of them right now, if you offered me, hey, you're going to lose at Virginia, but you're going to beat Miami, I might take that.
I'd take it. Yeah.
I do think that the Virginia game is still so important.
That's huge. Yeah.
I think that game is just you cannot lay an egg there. Remember we did the FPI thing again with the FPI. I've got some complaints about the way that they think the SEC is, God's gift to.
We're not even top 25 in the FPI.
But in the FPI, remember we did the percentages. Florida State now a favorite at Virginia. They're a massive favorite at home against Pittsburgh. They're a huge favorite at home against Virginia Tech. They already they're a very large favorite against Wake Forest and Stanford. The Miami game is like 60-40. The Florida game is like 60-40. That will change after Florida takes a couple more losses. We'll be a favorite in that one. Clemson is just a 60-40. Like Clemson looked terrible. You're going to be in every, and FPI recognizes this. You're going to be in every single game, right? Do you finish? Do you execute? Is the effort there? If so, you'll have a great chance. But I think it's very impressive that just in 2 weeks, right, 8 days since we did this whole thing, the FBI has switched completely. And Florida State, some of those games we were talking about, man, Virginia Tech's a 1% favorite, or Wake Forest was like we were only a favorite by like 10%, or Pittsburgh, we were a slight dog. All of those have changed. You're a favorite at NC State now. All of those are now Florida State well ahead, and your 3 potential losses, Florida State is a 60-40. Now, all that said, Bama was like 88. So just having a high percentage on FPI doesn't mean jack, what. But I do think that it's starting to tell you like, yeah, this team should do certain things that we all kind of expect out of them. So I do think that that's a big help, right? Is that you're looking at it now and you're saying, dude, this is pretty doable. This is not some kind of Florida or Oklahoma gauntlet where they play 10 ranked teams. It is very much a doable, winnable type situation for Florida State the rest of the way out.
Yeah, no, and I'm looking forward to it because again, Kent State, for I'm not going to mention historical things because I think it will be a massacre, but we'll leave that alone. But I do think this team has a chance to win a lot of football games, and I think they will be in every single football game. And I think Tommy Castellanos is going to play a huge role in that. Even yesterday, it wasn't a huge deal, right? Like it's East Texas A&M. It's not a big deal. But at the same time, he extended plays and extended drives just with his legs and his confidence. And I'm just very excited about it. Obviously I have no worries about Kent State. That Miami game is going to be so fun because I think it's Carson Beck versus Tommy. You're looking at 2 transfer quarterbacks and see who outplays the other. I think Miami does have the better roster if you're looking at talent. I think Florida State has the better coach team. So I think that will be a really fun game to watch.
Yeah. I got distracted for a minute, but yeah, I mean, no, I agree with that. Like, I think that, stylistically, I think Florida State matches up really well. I think they've got better coordinators. I think they've got a coordinator advantage in every game for the rest of the year. I really like Clemson's defensive coordinator. I think he's one of the best in the country. I hate their offensive coordinator. I mean, I don't hate him, personally, but I don't think he's very good. So when you take both of what Florida State has, I like them in that. I think Miami's got a good offensive coordinator. I'm not sold on their defensive coordinator yet, but I don't think Heatherman's as good as Tony White anyway. So I think Florida State's got an advantage there, and you're playing at home. So yeah, I mean, we'll learn more about. We'll learn a lot more about Miami over these next 2 weeks when they play USF, which I do think they'll beat USF. And then when they play Florida, who might be playing for their coach's job. I think Florida's going to go into Baton Rouge and lose this weekend. And so I think that game on the 20th, right? Yeah, we played Kent State that same day. I think that will tell us a lot about Miami. And, we'll find out at that point. And Miami will have a week off before they play us. And, may the best team win. That'll be a top 5 or 10 matchup based on, the teams ahead of us, that if we can hold serve against Virginia and Miami can hold serve as well against Florida and USF, you could be talking about a top 5 matchup in Doak. And I saw this. Listen, I don't want to. Somebody tweeted me this, and then they sent it to me. I'm glad they did. But Richie, I might be dreaming here. But you know who the best guest picker of all time would be if game day comes? I mean, they got to bring Corso in as the guest picker. Like that has to happen.
That
right?
would
like,
be, yeah.
I mean, like just
I was going to say Burt Kreischer, but no, yeah,
yeah,
Corso.
it's no screw. I mean, Corso can take off his shirt. Yeah, it's got to be lean. I mean,
Corso guest picker
I mean,
took his shirt off. That'd be amazing.
There would be no better way to do that. Madso gets out there with the shirts they made. I can't imagine a better situation than, hey, we didn't get you on the first one. Listen, I think I'll make a video of saying only nice things about ESPN if they do that. Like I'm not even joking. As much as everybody hates them and we all hate them and stuff, I'll make a video, 10-minute video. Just
dude, that would be freaking amazing if Corso was the guest picker for Florida State Miami at Doak. That would
top 5
be
matchup or top 10,
yeah.
Top 10 at worst, right?
Yeah, it'd be top 10 for sure.
Yeah. So you ESPN, well, I'm trying to be nice here and not, you folks that run things, like I just gave you the best marketing plot of all time. So get Corso up there. I think that's about all we got for this week. Little shorter episode. Again, we I don't know if there's a ton to talk about from a 77-3 win, but glad the Noles took care of business. Glad that they were able to get out relatively healthy. May have some injury updates later on in the week, but with a bye week coming up, don't expect anything real crazy. And then we'll have some stuff that drops this week, and then we'll focus on Kent State. That's kind of where we're heading with this one. So, Richie, any shout outs or anything before we get out of here?
No, shout out touchdown Tommy. Like he's just doing what we did not expect him to do entirely, but he's doing it.
Oh, I'll give my shout out to USF. Listen, my wife graduated from USF. I live in Tampa, so we've always been big. I've always been I wouldn't say a big fan, but always wanted them to do well. You want the hometown team to do really well. I drove home watching the game on my iPad, mostly listening to it because the screen was so fuzzy because of the service up through Gainesville and everywhere else. But got home with like 2 minutes to go, and I'm like pushing my kids out of the way, like get. I'm going to watch the last 2 minutes of this, and I looked at Elena. When they lined up for the field goal, because I could have just seen, man. You remember? I don't know if you remember this in 2021. It was the day after we beat Louisville. I went out with some buddies and actually Brendan Sinone and another friend, and we Ben, you met Ben, my neighbor. We went out and we watched that USF game, and USF had a field goal to tie the thing up, and they botched the snap, like it was blocked or something. I don't know. But I was just thinking, like, if these losers, which they weren't, shout out to them. I looked at Elena and I said, if they miss this kick, we're getting a new TV tomorrow. I just want you to know I'm crashing out. Like I am crashing out if USF misses this kick. Thank God they didn't. And I don't know that there would be I don't know that I could have imagined a better start to a season. Maybe Notre Dame, winning week 1, but it's going to work out for us well that Notre Dame won anyway. So I don't know that you could imagine a better start to the season than Florida State winning their first 2 games by a combined, 88 points. And then Florida losing to a directional school. In the first 8 days of the season. So shout out the Bulls, man. I'll whatever that thing is they do, I'll do it. So go Bulls. Appreciate Garden Gold, Guthrie, Sleeper, all the folks that support. Make sure you are subscribed. We will have the recruiting episode with Josh Newberg dropping tomorrow morning. So make sure you are subscribed for that. We will talk to everybody soon. Feels good to be 2-0, Richie. Go Noles.
Absolutely.